Okay, so we have our task 2 IELTS essay, and our pattern is what are the causes of the problem and solutions, okay? So it's going to be the simple pattern where you should have your introduction, you should have your causes, solutions, and conclusion section. The introduction, as you remember, should be a couple of sentences long. You want to give some background information, you want to paraphrase the topic of the question, and you want to give ideally some idea about the things that you're going to talk about or the main themes of your answer. So let's take a look at the topic. So our topic is, nowadays we are producing more and more rubbish. Why do you think this is happening? What can governments do to help reduce the amount of rubbish produced? Okay, so I'm happy that they've actually got the word rubbish here, because rubbish tends to be a very British way of saying this. It's a very British word. I don't know if you know the American version of rubbish, which they would say trash. So we would say rubbish, they would say trash. So that's an easy paraphrase for you to do right there, is to swap rubbish for trash. So let's take a look at the introduction that this person has written. Significant amount of trash has been accumulated over time. Okay, so something's missing here. So you need to tell us how much. So either missing a determinant, so you can do it two ways. You can say a significant amount of trash, or we can make it plural and say significant amounts of trash have accumulated. Okay, so either say a significant amount of trash has been accumulated over time, or we can say significant amounts of trash have accumulated over time. Okay, so that's the first thing that this candidate needs to check. It is often argued that this phenomenon causes serious environmental problems and solutions should be considered. Okay, so we've got problems and solutions here. So, okay, so we're missing something that should go here. All right, I'm going to read this sentence in two ways, and I want you to listen and see if you can pick out which way sounds better. Okay, so this is way number one. It is often argued that this phenomenon causes serious environmental problems and solutions should be considered. Okay, number two, second way. It is often argued that this phenomenon causes serious environmental problems and solutions should be considered. Can you hear the difference in how I read this section? Okay. Causes serious environmental problems and solutions should be considered. Causes serious environmental problems and solutions should be considered. So what do you think we're missing here? What's the difference in how I read that? The second way I read that is if it had a comma here between problems and solutions. Okay. So they're saying that this phenomenon, i.e. the significant amount of trash, okay, this phenomenon causes serious environmental problems, okay, and we need to find solutions. But without a comma, you're saying that this phenomenon causes serious problems and solutions are both caused by the phenomenon of significant amounts of trash being created. Okay, so that's why the comma is important here, because you're changing topic. Okay, so we finished with problems, and then your second thing you're adding on, and solutions should be considered. Okay, so that's just why we need a comma there. The reasons for continually rising rubbish and several solutions will be suggested in this essay. Okay, so they have made an effort to give some background information, so that's good. They've said what's going to happen in the essay, that's okay. And as an introduction, this is okay. There's these two grammar issues that I pointed out, but overall, I think it's not a bad introduction. It could be a little bit longer. I would like to see a little bit more detail about the rising trash. The rising amount of trash. For example, you could give me a fake statistic, okay, or number. You could say something like, recent studies have shown that the amount of rubbish we are producing has increased by 40% in developed countries, okay? We get something like, across all developed nations, let's just say the UN has estimated the amount of trash produced has increased by 20%, comma, compared to 10 years ago. Something like that. So can you see how you're giving me more background information? You're exploring the topic more. You're showing me more detail. You're answering the question more fully. You're showing me a different type of complex sentence. Okay. So a sentence like that would be a good addition to add into this introduction. So far, this introduction by itself is okay. But if we're going to improve it and take it to the next level, I would suggest adding in a sentence like that. Okay. So let's look at body one. To begin with, there are some reasons for this continuously increasing amount of trash. Okay, so I like the way they've begun with to begin with. Okay, that's a nice linking phrase into the first paragraph. So there are some for the continuously increasing amount of trash. Continuously increasing sounds a bit too much. I would, maybe get rid of continuously. I think it sounds a little bit unnatural. It's not wrong. It's not incorrect to put it there, but it sounds a little bit unnatural the way they phrased it. So we've got, first of all, the quantity of resources which companies require has increased. First of all, the quantity of resources which companies require is increased as the technology developed. The technology, so as technology developed, has increased as technology has developed, right? So we want to be consistent. In other words, the chemicals which companies trash away has risen as well as the development of technology. Okay, so we wouldn't say trash away, it should be throw away. Or you can say dispose of. Has rise, it should be has risen. Okay, so we've got rise, rose, risen. As well as the development of technology. Furthermore, the use of plastic, which is dumped considerably every year, has increased significantly in houses as well as the number of delivery services. So this comma is confusing me, okay? This phrase, which is dumped considerably every year, doesn't make sense to me, okay? Considerably, it's not correct to have considerably here. It's dumped considerably. A considerable amount of trash is dumped. The use of plastic, of which a considerable amount of is dumped. Okay, use of plastic, of which a considerable amount is dumped. Okay, so we're saying out of the whole, of which, so the use of plastic, of which, of the whole, a large amount is dumped. Okay, every year. Okay, so we've but this phrase that they've got here is not really necessary. It's not really adding anything to the point of the topic, and it's weird that we've got these because they've used these two commas here to show that it's like a clause. It's like a movable clause. So I just feel like it's not really adding a lot to this paragraph. I'm wondering if they're supposed to have eliminated the commas. So the use of plastic, which is of which a considerable amount is dumped every year, has increased significantly in houses. So are they just trying to say disposable plastic or one-time use plastic? The use of disposable, or what we would say, we would call it single-use plastic is what we call it in the UK now. So there's been this movement to ban single-use plastic that you can't really recycle and is designed to be used only once. Okay, so overall, this sentence, I can understand the meaning. They've got a nice linking word here. They're trying to use some punctuation. The overall structure of the sentence is a little bit confusing to read and I think needs restructuring. It says that plastics are commonly used in delivering foods as they are cheap and easy to produce. So it should be a verb, right? So not easy to noun, easy to verb. However, despite the convenience of plastics alternating dishes, they are useless for people after eating delivered meals put in them. Despite the convenience of plastic alternating dishes, this is the incorrect word choice here. Okay, the meaning isn't correct. Alternate means to change, to go from A to B, A to B. So the dishes aren't going from A to B. Despite the convenience of plastics for ready meals, for delivery food, they are useless for people after eating delivered meals put in them. Okay, so we're looking for causes. Okay, so we have got two causes. First of all, companies are using creating more plastic. And then it's a lot of people using delivery food. So I like that they've got 2 examples, 2 causes in here. That's good. One thing I think we're missing are examples and numbers or statistics. Okay, I both think could be added in here to increase your task achievement. Okay, next paragraph. Nevertheless, there are several solutions that governments can suggest. Okay, this is fine. Nice introduction linking sentence. We've got our linking word. Okay, and then we let us know that they're going to focus on solutions. Firstly, they can promote campaigns which people can easily take part in. For example, opening a market which people can exchange or buy already used products is effective to encourage people to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Okay. Opening a market. Okay. Secondly, governments should strengthen regulations regarding rubbish. For instance, they might enforce. You can't really enforce people. You enforce a rule or laws. Okay, so you could say the government might enforce stricter rules about recycling. Okay, so that you can enforce the rule, but you can't necessarily enforce people. Okay, so they might pressure people. They might coerce, but I mean, coerce has got a very negative connotation. So we wouldn't really say the government can like force people. We might say compel, maybe. But if we want to keep enforce, so something like this: the government might enforce stricter rules about recycling. Moreover, as most of the rubbish produced is from corporations, and the chemicals they create can lead to serious environmental problems and diseases, it is necessary to regulate companies more strictly than normal people. Okay, so again, we've got our 2 solutions. And what I like about this is that they've looked at the 2 problems that they talked about earlier, and they've picked 2 solutions that fit with those problems. So that's good. Okay, we've got conclusion. In conclusion, as far as I am concerned, the causes of steadily rising rubbish are advanced technology and increasing use of plastics. These might be covered by governments promoting campaigns and legislating laws in terms of trash. Okay, so this is totally fine. As a summary, this is totally fine. You could expand a little bit more, but you don't really need to write that much more in a conclusion. Okay, so task achievement, they did what the question said. They had a good introduction. They had a conclusion. They talked about problems. They talked about solutions. They could have expanded a bit more on what they were talking about by giving examples from the real world, statistics or personal experiences they've got. So I would probably put them 6.5 for task achievement. And if they want to get a higher score, they need more examples and more detail. Cohesion and coherence, it was pretty logical. Stuff was linked together pretty coherently. So I'd probably give it 6.5. Vocabulary, they did try with the vocabulary. There were a couple of mistakes and errors in the vocabulary. So probably a 6. Grammar, there were some sort of errors in some of the grammar, like we talked about, some incorrect use of phrases there. 1 or 2 odd sentences. But probably coming out at a sort of a 6. Okay. To be honest, I think this is probably an overall 6 essay. I can't remember if we average this out, they would bump you up to a 6.5. But I think, to be honest, I think it would get a 6 in the real IELTS. I mean, I could see task achievement being bumped down to a 6, just because you've got places where you could expand and explain a bit more. But overall, I think this candidate did a really good job. They're in that kind of 6 to 6.5 range. Their structure is good. Their ideas are good. They just need to work on fixing those grammar and vocabulary issues that we picked out.